EU5 is obviously officially announced. Today, as my second video on that topic, because obviously you can already watch my first impression, my first gameplay in EU5 when I tried out Poland playing the first 100 years as it. Today is time for my honest opinion on the game. And I'll be able to speak a bit deeper and more about the specific features than I did in the video, because video was limited to 30 minutes, I couldn't record more, and also I cannot use any other content than I used on that video, so I'll be using that video content today. Today I don't have any time limit, so I can talk a bit more about my opinion, my feelings, about specific features. What is even better, I posted on my community a post asking you to share any questions you have about the game after me playing for over 50 hours of it. Feel free to ask as much as you want, I'll be trying to reply to as many of them as possible in my next video from now, where we'll be going deeper into specific mechanics. Today it's more about the opinion. So before I start talking about it, I have to be clear. I had access to the game for 2 weeks, outside of which for 9 days I was on my Tuscany road trip, so I brought my PC there, but I couldn't play as much as I would normally do. So I do have 50 hours in that game. It is decent, it is enough to get a knowledge on the core mechanics and the general understanding and feeling about the game, but it's definitely not enough to tell you for sure about some of the stuff and if this game is good and if I'll be able to play it for thousands of hours. Because first 50 hours, you're still so eager to learn stuff, you want to explore stuff, and now that I lost access, I don't have access to that game anymore. First of all, I can't stop thinking about that game. Second of all, I feel emptiness because my brain, my strategy brain, wants to keep playing it, but I can't. And also, because of these two reasons, when I open EU4, I look around the map, I look at the countries, achievements I could do, and then I just turn off the game. That's my current feeling about it. So how about we start with speaking about the map. You see here that we've got plenty of countries, as we expected. The map is huge, we've got like 30,000 locations, but I don't want to go into technicalities here. I want to talk about my feelings. I think that the map itself is nice. And what is important, you've got options to customize it. By default, you've got this experience with like a 3D map, which allows to show units as 3D units when you zoom in. It allows you to show buildings, forts, and cities in the game in general, which is the default experience. You zoom in, it's like that. It's like CK3, I would say. When you zoom out, it becomes flat. But me personally, getting used to flat map in EU4, I was only using that gameplay also flat map mode when playing, which also means there are no 3D buildings on this and there are no moving units. So some of you even commented on that, oh, it's so bad, but I'll talk about it a bit later. So the map itself, I don't know about you guys, I love the map. And maybe it doesn't look that good here in my gameplay because I used flat map mode for some of you, but I like flat map mode. Let me show screenshots from Steam on how it looks like with actual 3D graphics. And just look at this. That's how the cities are looking like when you zoom in, and you can have both political and territory map mode at the same time, with the slightly colored borders, but focused on the geography. That's a bit zoomed out map, how it looks like. That's how a disaster can look like in Japan, and like how Japan looks by itself with these graphics. That's an actual moving army. That's how Byzantium looks like. I mean, these graphics are pretty good, and honestly I don't understand some of you that complain about it. What I can complain about is performance. It is not good, and that's why in my case, in case of my video, I was playing on a flat map mode, just to make sure it runs faster, but I also just prefer a flat map mode. Now, I saw comments that some of you said that, oh, EU4 map is better. EU4 map has 4,000 locations. Let's start with that. Then let's have in mind that most of you play EU4 on mods. And this is a reminder how EU4 map mode looks like on vanilla. It is okay for its age, but is it better? You have to answer that question yourself. So again, that's Poland in EU4, right? Flat map mode. That's Poland in EU5 on flat map mode. Second big thing we have to talk about is the goddamn UI. And that's a very one of the top 3 things that are problematic right now. Again, I will start with my honest opinion. When I was reading Tinto Talks, and maybe I'll just let you play that video in the background. When I was reading Tinto Talks, and I saw specific elements of the UI dispatched from the others, I didn't like it at all. I hate it. But the first moment when I saw the whole UI put together, I started kinda leaning towards liking it. To be more specific, I was positively surprised that it looks better than I expected. And that's first part of my opinion. Second part of the opinion, and Paradox also states that themselves, this UI is still work in progress, and definitely they'll keep improving that over time. So we can have hopes that based on your constructive feedback and creators' constructive feedback, they're gonna improve it. For example, one of my main improvements is like, this graph is unreadable. They have to make it improved to actually for people to be able to read it. But yeah, in general, you see from the first side, you see your ruler, you see your coat of arms, which is waving for you. You've got the loyalty of the estates, which is good, because estates are very important in that game. And you don't have to go into the estates menu to see the details, like you had to do in EU4. The pop-ups are like pop-ups. My only thing is, if I show you a moment of that, sometimes there are just too many of these pop-ups. Well, it's just a matter of understanding which pop-up is what. Probably some graphics of these pop-ups could be improved, because I still, after 50 hours, wasn't sure about some of the pop-ups, what they mean. But I learned over time what they do mean. Obviously, at the top of the screen, you've got the most important modifiers of the country, which obviously is some stuff like in EU4, like stability, money, legitimacy, prestige, manpower. And then on top of that, you have the other things like that are important here. Diplomats, you have diplomats in EU4 as well, and population. And population is definitely a key thing to show here. Then top right, obviously, you have the game speed. You've got various menus that were usually, I think, in the bottom right corner of the screen where the map mode was, and the outliner that can be hidden. And the hidden outliner actually looks like this. So you have, oh, I see something, but you can expand it to see the details on the various stuff. And I was using outliner all the time. It is useful, although it's not always as clickable as I'd like it to be. So for example, I was annexing a subject here with my diplomat. When I was hovering on it, it wasn't telling me where it's gonna end. I had to go to the cabinet to get that information. On the other hand, if I wanted to cancel the opinion improvement, I could just right click to cancel that diplomat. So some things worked as expected, some things could be still improved. Keep in mind, guys, this game is not, it is announced, but we don't know the release date yet. My guess is around end of this year, but I think if the game will not be ready in a few months from now, it's not gonna be published this year. That's how they care about your feedback and making this game work for everyone. And that's also a reason why they allowed many YouTubers to post the video, to see all of the feedback from the people, because, you know, one thing is Tinto Talks and very close people following it and seeing only specific aspects of the game. Another thing is seeing your favorite creators playing the game and having fun with it and like interacting with it. Now they can bring another wave of the feedback to improve the game further. But still with that, you see this UI? Maybe you don't remember. Let me show you how EU4 UI looks like, just as a comparison, because some of you also say EU4 UI is much better. This is EU4 UI. First of all, it is cleaner than EU5, right? But I saw opinion that the icons in EU5 are too small. But if you take a closer look, you also see that the icons are in fact bigger in EU5 than they are in EU4. And another thing is, you actually do have more information in that UI than you have in EU4, which on one hand for a newer player can be overwhelming. But for experienced players, and let's be honest, for games like this, over time there will be more experienced players than unexperienced players, there's just more relevant information that you're being showed right away. So I'm more like a fan of it. I think it's more like of graphically adjusting the elements of the UI to make it appeal better to the players. But I think it's what this whole discussion is coming from is that people just expect that from this good EU4 UI there's gonna be a huge jump for 10 years younger game with improvements. And honestly, I see it happen as an improvement by release. There's still so much to improve, but we are heading in the right direction, and I already see hundreds of comments saying that I'm bullshitting because they paid me. This video is not sponsored, they never pay me for anything from EU5 perspective, so keep that in mind. Let's get into the other topics of the game. How about Warfare and expansion? Okay, starting with Warfare. First of all, see the performance. First of all, it's only 50 hours, so I'll be honest for you, I know the basics, but I'm not an expert from Warfare yet. But I can tell you a few main things. Early on, your armies will be based on levies. So it's like peasants with pitchforks. So they'll die a lot, just like here on the screenshots. And also the quantity advantage will be super important because your armies, your enemy armies are both shit. So just having a bigger numbers and a better general is gonna win these battles. So that's how the warfare looks like in the early game. What is really nice is that they introduce objectives. And objectives work like objectives you have in EU4 for your navy. So like patrol a sea. So, for example, there's an objective, defend home territory, where you select which stack is gonna perform that, or which stacks multiple, and they're just gonna go ahead and start running around your territory and wiping the enemies, obviously if they are weaker than you. But the feature that I like even more from this automations that is not even here is that when you select an army and you right-click on an enemy, you're not gonna go to the province where that enemy stands like in EU4. Your army is gonna start following that army as long as they're within your fog of war. You see them, they're outside of the fog of war. There is also an automation for carpet siege that works, unlike in EU4. Look, I chose an army, I chose which areas they're gonna carpet siege, and look at that 5k stack, what it's gonna start doing once I impulse. It's gonna start by itself splitting into smaller stacks, good enough to siege down their provinces, locations, and they're gonna perform that carpet siege by themselves. It's better than I expected. Obviously it has some improvements to be made, because when you select this, they don't look if there's an army around, and if there's an army around, they're just gonna come and wipe you. Well, ideally you should run away, but maybe it's good because that would make the game too easy for you if it was doing it by itself. So that's a disadvantage, but this works. Another thing is, with time, you unlock in advances, which I'll talk later, special buildings that provide you manpower, which is called armory. You can treat it as you have pops, from them you're coming the levies, and manpower is a group of the people within your country that are trained, that are reserves of your army, ready to join it. So you will see over time that I actually managed to get 12,000 manpower by 1437, a lot of buildings, and with 140 manpower recovering per month. It's almost like Poland in 1444 on EU4. And obviously that standing army will be more and more important over time, especially because of its quality. When you send a standing army to fight versus levies, the levies will be massacred. You see the losses that I was doing here in that battle. Small standing army against 8,000 army that was outnumbering me. 7,500 losses versus 1,000. Okay, but how about expansion? This is my Poland after 100 years. Obviously, compared to what you can do in EU4, it is nothing. It's pretty bad, right? But you have to keep in mind that they wanted to limit expansion because the game is 500 years. So they want you to play this 500 years, not to conquer the world in the first 100 years. And let's be honest, why doing a road conquest in EU4 in 20 or 100 years is fun for some people. It makes the game silly, isn't it? And be honest, how many of you actually played in the last month RT 1821? So that's one of the reasons they are slowing down expansion. And I expanded a lot, more than I expected, but you have to keep in mind Poland has a lot of flavor that speeds up your expansion. Because if you don't have any claims, events to expand, then you're limited to no civil war or asking your parliament for reason for war. And that reason for which is insult is double the cost of the provinces. So let me show you something. You see this small Volhynia? With the parliament CBs, I needed 3 or 4 wars to fully annex all these trains. I was 3 wars and then they were left with 1 location. That's how slow their expansion is. And that's not the only thing, because then you have to integrate the province, which takes the whole province, so like 4 or 5 locations, takes around 20-30 years to integrate, which also makes it slower. And if it's not integrated, you first of all have rebels, and second of all, you have no control of that province. And the control is like reversed autonomy. You see, that's my control of the country in 1437, having in mind most of these provinces were my cores, so they're not only integrated, but they also of my accepted culture, and I have plenty of roads and buildings increasing that control. It is really hard, especially in early game, to increase that. Then over time there will be more buildings and roads improvements that will be making that easier. So how about economy and scaling? Well, I'll be honest with you guys, especially on the economy and trade. I did play around with it, but I say if you didn't play 500 hours in the game, you can't say you fully understood it. Obviously you can know the basics. You know how it is, like, I know nothing, then you play it a little bit, oh, I know it very well, you play it more, I know nothing again. I think that's how it is also with EU5. So if other creators told you that they fully understand it and know how to exploit it, I would have doubts. And that's also why I'll not go too much into like how it works actually in game, but I'll talk more about my feelings about the buildings and trade. I think it is fun to handle it yourself early game, to, you know, get either more profit money from the trade or get something that your pops needs to have higher satisfaction and higher growth. So on small numbers, I really enjoyed it. But the problem starts when you grow a lot. You have much more trade capacity and your country is huge. Because then you don't have like 2-3 goods that you're importing like I did in the start of the game, but you have 60, 80 or even 100 different trade routes happening at the same time. It's impossible to control yourself. I mean, if you really want, you can micromanage it. And I think that might be a problem, especially that I had that problem after 100 years. Imagine that after 400 years. But you have to keep in mind, you have a choice. Meaning, you can micromanage it, you can fully automate it, because as you see here, there are plenty of automations in the game, so pretty much allowing AI to handle part of your country for yourself. And one of this is letting the AI handle the trade. Then it's gonna try making the profit and the requirements for your pops by itself. You can fully automate it, you can automate it for the specific trade nodes, or you can automate it for specific trade node, excluding some trade goods that you never want to stop trading with. Which is, I think, good solution, and I've heard that it's not still finalized. But when I was using that, and I was using that especially when my trade was too weak for me to micromanage it all the time, I would say it handled it pretty well. Like, look at my money at the end of the game. You see, it was making 370 ducats from trade and was spending 240 ducats on trade, which means I had 130 of positive balance without me touching that trade for at least a few decades. Probably you could take 10-20 more ducats by doing it yourself, but is it worth the effort? It is a bit bad thing because I think I would worry about late game, how to handle that. But it's also a good thing because if you want to micromanage it and you want to play a small Zlewikk whole game and just play around with the trade, it's fine, you can do it. But if you want to just focus on expansion, go and use your automation. About scaling, I feel like scaling is good because you do actually have impact on how your country scales. With trade, obviously, I think the trade is the biggest source of income in the early ages, probably later as well, especially when your control is low. The building itself, and saying the buildings can be automated, and when you have a lot of locations and money, you have to go and automate buildings. Outside of sometimes when you need specific buildings to build, like universities, theaters, or something to increase the control or build or the roads. But you do have impact on increasing the economy over time by conquering new lands with new goods, getting the buildings done, increasing the control, which can be done by so many various ways, accepting a culture, converting a province, getting a road done, getting a specific building over there. Obviously, over time, there's more stuff to unlock. So I did feel I have an impact for scaling of my country. And I did see that AIs around me were doing it even better than myself. It's a good example. I don't think I have screenshot that. There are 3 types of the locations. There's a rural location, there's a town, and there's a city. I have like 20 of towns, 0 cities in my country. While Bohemia, that as you see didn't expand much, but Bohemia, misplayed by AI. Like 70% of the locations were towns, 5% were cities, and the rest were rural. And which is not a fact at the start of the game. So they were scaling the country without expanding, which means they were probably similar strength to us, if not stronger, thanks to this. Okay, how about the advances? So as you see, in each of the 6 ages, you will have an advanced tree. And what advances you are unlocking will depend on the institutions that you have in each of the ages. Each age has 3, and by unlocking a specific age, you have some of advances. Then unlocking specific institution is unlocking you a new tree of advances within that age. So I'll tell you what, when I was reading about that in the Team Talks, I was worried. It's too much, it's very complex. I wasn't a big fan of the advances in Victoria 3 as well. But once I started playing it, I started feeling like, okay, it's not that bad. Especially once you start learning what specific mechanic means for you, and you know what to you have to focus on, because then you can say, okay, I want this advance, then I want this advance, then I want this advance. So it will be creating you the queue of the advances that you will be taking. The thing that is definitely missing here, to make your life easier, is a search bar. To search for advanced name, to search for a modifier in the advance, and filter by the type of the advance. Because you see there are a few types. There are normal advances, there's advance from your culture, there's advance from your religion. You'll see there are also advances for your specific country, like in case stone and brick for Poland. And these advances will work like national ideas from EU4. Unique bonuses that this country has to be shaped, besides government and other things and events. And that is also very showed at the very start of the game when you look in the country, right? You have 9 bonuses from a country type, 39 bonuses from your government type, 0 from culture, 60 from region, 70 unique events, and 21 advances and other unique bonuses that the country has. So that's more than 10 ideas that you're having in EU4. So that's good because you can, when you're choosing a country, you can see, okay, does it really have content or is it bare bones? And I think the expectation is that what they said in Ditto Talks, to have around 80 countries at release with actual content. When I was looking around the world, I don't think it's 80 yet, but obviously that's still work in progress. Besides that, instead of idea groups, we've got focuses in the ages. So in each age, you can choose on one of the 3 focuses, obviously admin, diplo, and mill, that will give you a set of unique advances only available to be unlocked in that age, and they will be staying with you forever. So it works kind of like idea groups. Obviously, you don't have a choice from all of them at the same time, just 3 at each age. But I do like this approach. I don't think it's as good as idea groups in EU4, but you have to keep in mind that you have to combine this on one hand with the sliders on the other. So it's a society of values where you can, as you see, in various aspects of the game, will be building up. If you are decentralized or centralized, if you are cult, you are quantity focused. So this combined with advances, I think it gives you actually more features than idea groups. Or maybe on the same level, because obviously idea groups also have the policies. So you'll see that over time, when you're building the societal values and improving them, you'll be heading towards an increased bonuses, earned maluses at the same time from the specific societal value. Like you see me going for decentralization, estate satisfaction, equilibrium, maximum war exhaustion, lower counter-espionage, but also monthly rebel growth being decreased. How about the cabinet? How does it feel different to the advisors in EU4? Well, we can automate it, by the way, but first of all, I think there is no comparison. Obviously, you have characters that you can invite to the court, you have sound generated automatically, but it's not like amount of the characters that you have in CK3 or even in Imperator. It's just characters that will be dealing with your army, they will be dealing with your cabinet, and maybe artists. That's pretty much it. Maybe sometimes as marriages, but I didn't care that much about it. So you'll be usually having, I don't know, between 10 and 20 characters in the country, which is almost nothing, right? And the cabinets You start with 2 seats, and then over time you'll be getting more and more and more. I end up with 3 after 100 years. They can perform various actions like develop a province, so you have just better bonuses, better buildings, etc. Encouraging migration. So, for example, I use that feature when I moved my capital to Warsaw through an event, and it had 20-ish thousand of population. And I could increase it within a few years to 50-60,000. And in my other test game, I increased that to 100,000 after even more time. Which is great because you have full control in your capital. And the other stuff like changing the culture in a province, changing the religion. Obviously the most important one is integrating a province to be in your country. And then over time with new advances we'll be unlocking more and more cabinet actions like increasing legitimacy is also by default, increasing stability, decreasing war exhaustion, or fighting with specific rebels. And I find this really good. I don't think it's too much micromanagement. You just set it up and then don't touch it for quite some time. Like for example, when you start integrating per province, then it will be integrated for like 20-30 years. So you don't touch that cabinet in like a lot of time. Sometimes you want to micromanage a bit, but it will not be changing all the time. It will not be changing all the time, these actions, because there's also, if you change it too quickly, you have to pay a price. And usually the cabinet actions are not immediate, they're very slow, they take time. How about the 3D portraits? Well, if you look at this, I think they're pretty good. I don't know, many people don't like them, but I personally like them more for the look and feel of the game than CK3, and definitely more than Victoria 3 characters. Maybe they should be 2D, as some of you say, but if they stay 3D, I'll not be crying. It's not like a game-breaking feature that I cannot live with, it's not there. I can live with it, it's fine. Could be probably still polished, but it's fine. Estates, I would say that. They work similar to EU4. They're less exploitable, I think. Definitely that UI for the privileges could be improved. That's definitely a work in progress UI. I don't like it. And there are as many, if not more, privileges in game than in EU4. And definitely more than we had around Emperor. And there are also a lot of privileges that are unique for specific religions, countries, unlocked more from advances over time. So like for the whole game, there are definitely more privileges than we have in EU4. One last thing that I want to mention before we summarize the video is flavor. As I know people are like curious about the flavor. I'll be honest, I mainly played Poland in my test hours. So I cannot really answer that question. I played a bit of Florence, I played a bit of Pope, it does have a lot of features, and I played a bit of Eastern Roman Empire. I can tell you about flavor of Poland. You saw it has 70 events, and it's events like this for Union of Krewo, historical stuff, Union of the Galicia Volhynia, unique characters like Zawisza Czarny, Jan Długosz, so known figures from the history, and Poles are helping create this. And even for Prussia homage, when you're actually creating a Prussia subject within your lands, Poland does have a lot of content, and it helps you shape your steps and make it a bit easier to create that historical Polish Empire and then Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. There's plenty of advances, including like unique units, like Winged Hussars, Advanced Winged Hussars, and there's plenty of even privileges, like that Szlachta is enforcing on you, like Pacta Conventa. I got a privilege that this allowed me to declare no CB wars by the Szlachta from the historical event. There's even a Polish disaster when Szlachta is seizing the power and it's making all of the other states disloyal. This is decent amount of the content really for Poland, and there will be probably a few dozen of nations that will have that content, but don't expect all of the hundreds of nations to have it, right? It's also worth mentioning when you talk about flavors, mission trees were not in our game version, because there were mission trees and they decided to rework it. So we'll get to know more about the mission trees, I assume, in the future Team Talks. Okay, last topic, and the worst one, for Paradox at least, is the performance. You see, I was playing on pretty much medium settings everywhere, why having a top tier PC accept my GPU. My GPU is 2070, so it is medium one, but it's not the worst. And I had troubles to make the game work smoothly for me. What I can tell you is the feedback that we got from the Paradox is that it's obviously work in progress, and they will be focusing a lot of the resources in the final months to make the performance work. And that's what a lot of games do, by the way, as well. Some games fix it after the release, and like a month after release. So this is something that can be fixed. I think one of the reasons it is not so good and smooth for me and some other players is that when they work on the game, for now, while it's still being developed, they focus on the performance to work on specific PC builds that they use for their tests, for the beta testers, and for themselves, for the developers. So it does not have to necessarily work in my own build. And it doesn't mean it will not work at the release. That's my hope. Guys, I do content for so many years on YouTube. You know what? I'm always looking at the positive side. And I'm very optimistic about stuff. This makes me worry a lot, the performance. But at the same time, I still have trust in Paradox that they're gonna fix it for release. Keep in mind that it's probably at least half a year until release of the game. They have time to fix it, they have time to polish the UI, but I have to be clear with you. Performance is bad, and that's why one of the reasons I didn't use the 3D buildings and moving armies that you could see in the map. So, what's my overall opinion? The game is in a better state than I expected, based on the Tinto talks, which is good. It is definitely not ready to be released. And you guys, yeah, feel free to complain, but if you want to play that game, if you want to enjoy it, you should try changing your approach. Say something is not good, but maybe leave feedback how to improve it. We are all in the same community, wants to make it work. So just being toxic and shitting on Paradox, it's not the right approach, especially they're clearly trying to make it work by sharing over 100 of dev diaries ready to get your feedback, by giving access to creators to show you the game on the current state. They don't tell us that you can't say something. No, we can say whatever you want within what we've seen in the game by ourselves. And none of us is paid to create these videos. We could create these videos with the early access, but if I wanted to, I could play 200 hours and didn't tell you a thing. I wanted to show you the game to also be honest. And again, the game is announced, but without the date. And I think it's at least half a year from release. So guys, hopium, and again, hopium. It is in a decent state, but there's still a decent way to go until the release. And we have to count that they'll fix it. I would say that if they fix performance and polish the UI, this game is gonna be awesome. It is gonna be awesome. The mechanics are close to be there, and I like them. Obviously there will be some bugs that they are still fixing, there will be some miss stuff, but I also hope that they will be fixed by the beta testers, found and then fixed thanks to the beta testers before the release. So again, this is not all. Make sure to ask your questions in the post on my community, and I'll be creating another video going deeper into specific questions and mechanics from you. So make sure to like this video, to support the channel, subscribe to the channel, because there will be plenty of content coming in about EU5, and I'll see you in a few days.